Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unraveling a truly chilling true crime investigation. It begins with what looks like an unthinkable tragedy, a devoted husband rushing to comfort his dying wife only to lose his own life in the process. But the layers of deception we're about to uncover, they are absolutely staggering. Let's dive right in. So, picture this. The year is 2013, in a rough neighborhood in Cleveland, Ohio. 45-year-old Will Walker is a respected local hero. He's a lieutenant firefighter who has invested heavily in his community. But Will is actually preparing for a massive life change. His beloved new wife, Yoloma, has just been diagnosed with terminal cancer. Believing she doesn't have much time left, Will is packing up their entire lives to move her out to the quiet suburbs for her final days. He's literally sacrificing everything to make her comfortable, completely unaware that he's actually walking right into his own execution.
Part 1. The Driveway Ambush.
Let's trace the final, fatal minutes of Will's life on the night of November 3rd. It's crazy how quickly a completely mundane fast food run turned into a calculated assassination. Right around 8 p.m., Will is taping up moving boxes. He hears Yoloma, who is wrapped in a blanket on the couch and on the phone with her teenage daughter Jackie, let out this dry cough. Panicked that she's getting worse, he offers to go grab them some dinner, and Yoloma agrees to McDonald's. By 8:30 p.m., Will returns home, McDonald's bag in hand. But as he puts his key in the back door, he's suddenly ambushed in the shadows of his own driveway. By 9 p.m., Detective Tom Lynch arrives at a bloody crime scene while Will is fighting for his life on the way to the hospital. The physical evidence left behind told a pretty terrifying story. Detective Lynch found that fast food bag just dropped in the driveway, and Will's keys were actually still dangling in the lock. So it was a rapid, close-range attack. Will had been shot 4 times. But the absolute most crucial detail? Investigators found a straight line of 9mm shell casings leading behind the garage. There was this small, unlit gap between the garage and the back fence, which made for a perfect hiding spot. This wasn't some botched robbery. This was a premeditated ambush by someone who knew exactly when Will was coming home. Part 2. Hunting for suspects. Just 2 hours after the ambush, Will tragically passed away, and the intense hunt for his killer was officially on. Detective Lynch was under immense pressure from both the community and the firefighters' union to solve this. He immediately sat down with the grieving widow, Yoloma, to see if Will had any enemies. And she actually pointed investigators toward 2 highly plausible suspects right off the bat. First was her ex-husband, Mathlin Hines. He was an ex-convict with an explosive temper who was fiercely possessive of her. The second was Eugene Cray, a neighborhood local who constantly parked in Will's driveway, blasting music and smoking weed. Just weeks earlier, Will had completely lost his temper and stormed out with a handgun to chase Eugene away. So both men had very clear motives for violence. But, as happens in these complex cases, both of those promising leads evaporated almost instantly. Mathlin Hines had an absolute bulletproof alibi. He was literally sitting in a jail cell on the night of the murder. As for Eugene Cray, well, Detective Lynch tracked him down and asked for a DNA swab to compare against some DNA they found on those 9mm shell casings. Surprisingly, Eugene just shrugged and agreed. And the DNA? Not a match. Even a massive neighborhood sweep of security cameras gave them 0 immediate clues. So, hitting a frustrating wall of dead ends, the investigation completely stalled out for months. Part 3. The ex-wife's secrets. By February 2014, 3 months after the murder, the case was ice cold. Desperate for any kind of lead, Detective Lynch pivoted his focus purely to Will's finances. And that is when he uncovered a shocking new motive. Hidden in a giant stack of bank statements and mortgages was an addendum for a life insurance policy totaling $100,000. But here is the massive catch. Will hadn't updated it recently, so in the event of his death, that money wasn't going to go to his terminally ill wife, Yoloma. Nope. It was designated to go to his ex-wife of 9 years, Rita. You can imagine what happened next. Lynch brings Rita in for questioning, and her alibi immediately begins to crumble. At first, she claimed she'd visited Will's house around 1 p.m. that day to pick up her son, which was long before the shooting. Lynch actually let her leave, but as he watched her drive away, it hit him. He recognized her exact car from the neighborhood security footage. He brought her right back in. Confronted with video evidence of her car near the crime scene at night, Rita's story suddenly changed. Now she claimed she'd returned just to get her son's shoes, but insisted she left before the murder. Now, Rita's evolving alibi and that clear $100,000 financial motive made her look incredibly suspicious. But Detective Lynch hit yet another wall. He had no confession, he had no physical evidence linking her to the driveway ambush. So, despite all her lies, Lynch just didn't have enough to charge her, leaving the case completely, frustratingly stalled out once again.
Part 4. A game-changing tip.
Fast forward 9 whole months to December 2014. The Cleveland Firefighters Union had stepped up to offer a huge $24,000 reward to find Will's killer. Now, for weeks, police were just flooded with frustrating, useless rumors. But then, an unidentified man from the neighborhood walked right into an interview room with Detective Lynch. And instead of spinning another wild rumor, the man just pulled out his phone, set it on the table, and pressed play on a secret audio recording. What Lynch heard on that tape changed absolutely everything. On the recording, people were actively discussing the night of the murder. It actually allowed police to reconstruct the exact moment right after the shooting. The killer had leapt over the back fence and jumped into a waiting getaway car in the alley. As the car sped off, the passenger in the front seat turned to the shooter in the back and asked this chilling question: "Is Will dead?" When the shooter said yes, the passenger pulled out a phone and sent a text. And that text message confirming the kill, it was sent directly to the architect of this entire hit. The horrifying truth revealed by this audio was that the mastermind received that exact confirmation text while simultaneously dialing 911 and cradling Will as he bled out on the concrete. Part 5. The mastermind revealed. The identity of the person who orchestrated this brutal driveway ambush completely shattered the entire community, upending everything investigators thought they knew. In a devastating twist, the mastermind was none other than Uloma Currywalker. Will's grieving, terminally ill wife was actually completely healthy. She didn't have cancer at all. She had meticulously orchestrated the execution of her own husband. Uloma's plot was literally a masterclass in cold, step-by-step calculation. Step 1. She completely fabricated a terminal cancer diagnosis because she knew it would finally convince Will to marry her, putting her on his excellent health insurance. Step 2. Once married, her goal was to secure a massive life insurance payout upon his death. Though, ironically, she failed to realize Will had never actually removed his ex-wife Rita from the policy. And Step 3. On the night of the murder, while pretending to be sick on the couch, she used Will's innocent offer to get McDonald's as the literal signal to unleash the hitman. The craziest part? This betrayal wasn't even a solo act. Uloma actually pulled her own 17-year-old daughter Jackie into the plot. Remember that phone call Uloma was on when Will left for the food? She was telling Jackie he was leaving. Jackie then relayed that signal to her boyfriend, Chad Paget, who was sitting in a car down the street. Chad had organized the hit and hired the shooter, a young man named Ryan D., who brutally executed a community hero for a mere $800 and some marijuana. Uloma's behavior throughout this entire ordeal is the absolute textbook definition of sociopathy. She fooled everyone, the firefighters, the neighbors, even the detectives. To sit in that hospital waiting room, shivering in a big coat, playing the grieving widow just hours after watching the man who loved her bleed out, it is a truly terrifying reminder of how deeply some people can fake human empathy. In the end, Uloma was sentenced to life in prison, and Rita, the innocent ex-wife, legally received the life insurance payout Will had originally intended for his family. But as we wrap up this explainer, we are left with one chilling, lingering thought. How could a man so deeply, completely dedicated to comforting his dying wife fail to see the monster hiding in plain sight? It's a stark reminder of the terrifying power of deception. Thanks so much for joining us.